afternoon. How's everybody doing? All right. So we've got a lot to cover, but I'm gonna try and make this as brief as possible. So everybody's hungry. We lost an hour of sleep last night, so some of us are very tired. When the alarm went off this morning, it was pitch black outside, and I was like, no, this is not right. So before we start, I'll go ahead and pray for us. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for today. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to lead these teenagers, Father. I know that this is not something to take lightly, and I just thank you for this opportunity, Lord. I pray that you would be with us in this meeting, help us to speak everything that needs to be spoken, help everything to be spoken in love, Lord, and help us to have just a good time, and help us have a great day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so I wanted to have a meeting. We've got a lot of big events coming up, so I wanted to cover just all the specifics of those events. But I wanted to, while we're all together, go over just a couple of kind of housekeeping things that we need to just discuss to make sure this department runs smoothly, that there's clear communication between me and you guys, so you don't feel in the dark or anything like that. So you should have gotten kind of a whole pile of paperwork here. So we're gonna go through this and just hit everything as much as we can. But this first page is kind of just what this meeting is going to be about, all the different things we're going to cover. We'll cover a few big things first, and then at the end we'll cover all of the events and kind of go into more detail there. So the first thing I want to talk about is communication language. So part of my job is on Sunday mornings and Wednesdays, I spend an hour each time with your children, with your teenagers, and so I love getting to know them, getting to interact with them, learning more about them, and just teaching them the Word of God, teaching them about how to live a godly life. And so part of my job is training them to be Christian, training them to be young adults, and so this is, I wish I could say it's an easy job, but it's not an easy job, it's a hard job. I don't envy you parents, because I know you guys have an even harder job. You know, I'm with them 2 hours a week, you guys are with them the rest. And so I know it's a hard job, and so part of my job is having conversations with you guys about the behavior of the teens. And so this is one of those conversations. So I just want to just be upfront and say that since I've been teaching, I've had to have conversations with parents about their students' behavior, about the things that they say, about the things that they're doing, and so that will continue to go forward. That's not going away, because I want you guys to be aware of what I see on Wednesday nights or on Sundays, and so that we can support each other and work together. You know, if you're having an issue with your teenager, come to me, let me know so I can better understand their situation, and then vice versa. If I'm having an issue on Wednesday night, I want you guys to know about it. I don't want you to be in the dark. I don't want you to wonder why, you know, all of a sudden there's an issue. You know, I want to be upfront about that. So I hope that is understood with everybody. When it comes to on Wednesday night, we have had some instances of inappropriate language, inappropriate statements, maybe a sexual statement, harassment, violent things, anything like that will not be tolerated on anything, church events, at church, anything like that. So we kind of we'll go into repercussions later, but I just wanted to address that. You know, I want this group to be a safe space for these students. We live in a world that gets increasingly harder and harder, things that some of us didn't deal with until we were older, these teenagers are dealing with at a much younger age. They're exposed to language that we were not exposed to, ideas that we were not exposed to. It's all out there. All they have to do is open up their phone and it's all right there. You guys know that's the truth. And so while we can't shield them from that, we do need to let them know that, you know, when they're in church, that there are rules, there are things that they need to follow. And so when it comes to the things that they say, how they behave, you know, I'm going to take that very seriously, and I've always tried to take that very seriously. I've had conversations with parents already about things that have been said and done, so that will continue to go forward. I have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to that. When I don't want students to be made fun of. I don't want students to feel uncomfortable when they're in church. I don't want them to feel like this is a place where they can't be themselves. Each of our kids are young, wonderful children. I mean, they're not children. Some of them are children to me because I've known them since they were this little, but they're young adults, and they're all different. They all look different, they all talk different, they all like different things, and so I want this to be a youth group that values diversity and inclusiveness. So when it comes to bullying, harassment, anything like that, that will not be tolerated. So the next thing I want to cover is cell phone use. We know that we live in a world where cell phones are everywhere. We didn't have cell phones when I was in youth group, but are you gonna pass those out? Thank you. But they're such a great tool. I know you guys need the cell phones to be able to communicate with your teenagers, especially when we're on trips. You need to be able to reach out to them. I know some of us have laptops too, not just cell phones. So that's totally fine. But you guys need to communicate with your teenagers. They need to communicate with you. I know it's easy sometimes because we'll leave an event and I'll just send a message out to all the parents, hey, and they text you guys. So cell phones are great, but at the same time, there's a time and a place for them. And so usually at the beginning of class, I tell them to put their phones away, put them, because they can become a distraction. So it's not that they're a bad thing, they can just be very distracting and they can be disruptive. Now I know we have students who have ADHD, they have sensory processing issues, they have autism, we have all across the spectrum. And so sometimes there are times where they do need to just check out and scroll and kind of, if they're overwhelmed or they have too much going on, and that's totally fine, and I understand that. And if your student has an issue like that, let me know so I can be aware of that, so we can, make exceptions for that. I don't want them, when we went to Winter Jam, we had a student who had his headphones in, and that's fine because he was overwhelmed. So if that's an issue, let me know so we can all be on the same page. But when it comes to in class, phones are going to be away. On the trips, there may be times on the trips where there will not be phones, where we'll be doing a group building activity or something like that. So just be aware of that. But there's, like I said, be aware of your students on their phones. What are they looking at? What are they involved in? There's nothing wrong with checking up on that. There's all kinds of apps, there's all kinds of ways to monitor what your children are doing. I trust these kids, I love these kids, but it's real easy these days to just go off and onto something they shouldn't be in. So just be aware of that. And then the next thing I want to talk about is just respect. I come every Sunday and Wednesday and on all these trips with respect for your students. I respect them as human beings, I respect them as Christians, I respect them for who they are, and I just would love to have the same respect back at me. And I expect them to respect me and my youth workers. A lot of times we do run into issues with that, and I understand they're kids and they're learning, they're growing up, but it's our responsibility to help them understand what that respect looks like. So a lot of that is in communication. When we call down your students, we expect them to listen to us. So we also expect them to communicate and respect their peers, and so that was what we talked about, language. They need to be using respectful language when they talk to each other. We try to encourage that. We try to have a very inclusive group where we can have ideas shared and people don't feel stupid or silly for saying the things that they believe or whatever. We try to have that, so we're trying to respect each other. We do have, I'd say, a very respectful group of teenagers. I'm very proud of them for that. But they're still, just because they're great doesn't mean there's not a next level to get to. But it's our responsibility as leaders and youth workers to instill that in them. We show them respect and we just ask for respect in return. So the next thing I want to talk about is repercussions. So what does it look like when there is communication that's inappropriate, if they're on their cell phones when it's not time to be, or when they're not respecting myself or my youth workers? So pretty much my stance is a three strike system. So if my youth worker calls down Christian, we'll just use you for example, not that you would ever need to be called down. if my youth worker calls down Christian for, whatever, and then he continues to do it, and I call him down, if he continues to do it at that point, if it's a Wednesday night, he'll be downstairs with his parents. Or we'll call his guardian if they're not here and let them know, 3 strikes. When we're on these youth trips, it's the same rule, 3 strikes. If they're continuing to not listen, to not mind, to not show respect, I'm gonna call you guys and I'm gonna say, hey, I know we're in Kentucky, but somebody's gotta get your child. They're not listening, they're not respecting, they're not following rules. And so that's where it comes back to support and tag teaming. So we have to have these rules so that the students will listen, that they'll understand these rules. I don't mean to be harsh when I have these, but we have to have some sort of checks and balances with this, with their behavior. So those are the repercussions. If they're on their cell phone, we might have to take their cell phone up if it's not time to be on it. If they're being disrespectful, if they're bullying, if they're harassing someone, calling someone a name, that will be addressed, and you may have to find a way to get your child. So, does anybody have any questions about that part? Any questions so far? Okay. I don't mean to come down harsh, I just want us all to be on the same page, and so if I do call you, you're not like, what in the world, why, my child's an angel, what are you talking about, So, but I feel like we all love these students. We have a huge heart for these students. When they're not here, we miss them. We're looking for them. We're like, where's Piper? Where's so-and-so? We miss these kids. So we love them and we want the best for them. And so we want to work with you guys however we can to help support these teenagers. So any questions before we move on? Okay. Pastor?
Well, first of all, let me say that I can't imagine Lamar being harsh. Lamar is the most gentle person that I know, and so if Lamar has had enough, then you know that everybody else in the room has already had enough as well. Now, I hope Lamar will allow me to say this, but I'm the pastor, so you can just blame it on the pastor if you don't want me to say this, Lamar. But I've been a youth pastor myself, and when Denise has been a youth pastor as well, and when Denise and I were youth pastors, we were strict. I mean, we, in other words, the kids had to toe the line, or else they were out of there. Now, I'm not saying Lamar has to be that way, but the reason that we were that way is because, like he said, we wanted it to be a safe space for everybody. And so if there was anybody infringing on the safeness of the space, we had to remove that person so the space could remain safe. So I've encouraged Lamar to, just set boundaries and encouraged him to, set repercussions and so forth. So I appreciate this, Lamar, and I think you've communicated it clearly today. And so I support Lamar 100%. So in case there's anybody who, not that there would ever be anybody who would want to do an end around and come to me and say Lamar's done this or Lamar's done that. Like I've said, Lamar's the most gentle person I know. So if he's had enough, I know that you understand that as parents. And I've also been a parent too, and I would also want to know when my student was behaving well, or I also would want to know when my student was not behaving well. So if my kids got in trouble at youth group they got in trouble at home. So, anyway, so that's enough on that. But I do encourage Lamar to, just have these boundaries and to, do whatever it takes to keep these boundaries in place. Let me also say that I appreciate Lamar so much. I appreciate, Chandler so much. I appreciate, they're just working part-time. You know, they've got full-time jobs. They've, they're going, 8 to 5 or more every day, and then, responding to, texts or calls or whatever, on the other times as well. Could I ask you guys to do me a favor? If you don't mind, if you would just, give Lamar and Chandler the courtesy of doing like an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. text time or call time. In other words, don't text them outside of those boundaries or call them outside of those boundaries, because they've got full-time jobs. They've got, if it's an emergency, obviously, yeah, that's appropriate. But if you don't mind, if you'll just call them or text them between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And then anytime, like Lamar says, he's here on Sunday mornings, he's here on Wednesday nights. So if you need to get with them, and that's you can get with them on Sunday morning and get with them on Wednesday night as well.
He's here early on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And finally, what I would want to say today, is that we are very blessed to have Lamar as our youth pastor, and I would just encourage all of the parents and all of the kids to treat Lamar as a blessing. So I know you all want to say that you appreciate him, so let's just all let Lamar know how much we appreciate him.
I'm not letting you speak next time.
Hey, Lamar, could I
Yes.
say something? Philip's very nice, and I was a school teacher, so it's easy for me to get on to people. Lamar and Chandler work from 8 to 5. So if you're gonna call or text them then, that's fine, but understand that they may not be able to get back to you during that time. And then what I don't think Philip hit home hard enough on was, don't text them after 8 p.m. unless it's an emergency. Cause they do work 40 hours a week or more. And so any time that they give to you is their free time. It is their time when they can be going and doing things themselves. They can be going on trips this weekend to Kentucky alone, but they're going with y'all. And they love you, but it's just, I feel like we need to show them some common courtesy, and I'm coming at this. Philip has been a youth pastor, we've done it together, and then I've done it by myself. So, and I'm also coming at it from a pastor's viewpoint. We get calls and texts all the time, and we don't mind it. But when it's just chit chat or something, and it's in the middle of dinner time, or when it's 11:30 at night, and someone, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you when I saw you earlier today, and it's just found a new car. Woo. 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., unless it's an emergency, please don't bother them after that.
Thank you, guys.
Philip and Lamar are both too nice. Their wives are not, right, Chandra?
That's right, yeah.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the wives. All right, now to the fun stuff. Okay.
Well, did you have any more questions?
Oh, does anybody have any more questions before we move on?
I need to go to the hospital. So
Run away. That's good. That's fine.
I do have,
Is there,
well, I'm not
not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask this
Yeah.
question. Is there a list of things they need to bring?
We will get that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You're good.
Yeah.
Alright, so you should have 3 more papers in here. You should have, our 2022 calendar of events, a pamphlet on the mission trip, and a pamphlet on the ARC. Does anybody not have one of those papers? Okay.
My Lord, I hope we're not having to climb that mountain.
Yeah, I know. Alright, so here's our calendar of events. If you wanna put this in your calendar or hang this on your fridge, whatever you need to do. But this is what's coming up. We've already had Winter Jam. The spring retreat, April 13th, usually the youth will get together and stuff all the Easter eggs. So that'll be happening then. That'll just be a normal church service. May 6th, we'll have a Connect Quarterly event, just kind of a hangout event. June 6th through 10th is GBS week, and the teams usually help volunteer with that. They help run the sound system, they are team leaders, whatever we need. So help make sure they're available that week. The next week this is Junior Youth Camp. It's at 6th through 8th grade at Signal Mountain. Then the next is the mission trip, so we'll go over that more in detail here in a little bit. August 12th, the Connect Quarterly event. September 10th, we'll do a bowling night, which Tyson just went bowling the other day and he's really excited about. October 16th, we have our corn maze. We go to the Kiker Corn Maze every year. And then December 2nd, we'll be to the dinner theater. So we'll be doing that again this year. And so throughout the month of October and November, we'll be getting ready for the dinner theater, so just be aware of that. We'll have practices and all that fun stuff. So I know it's March, but these things just happen. Before you know it, it's December again. So next, we're gonna talk about the mission trip. All right, so who in here has had a teenager go on a mission trip before? Okay, so we have some newbies and some not newbies. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of lay down the expectations and ground rules for this mission trip. So it's been a few years since we've done a mission trip with the youth group. COVID has messed us up. Today was literally the 2-year anniversary of when we signed up for the mission trip we're going on this year. So because of COVID, we've missed it the last 2 years. So that, our seat has been saved for 2 years. 2 years we've been saying, okay, maybe this year. So it's finally gonna happen this year. And so if you've got that packet, just pull that out with the information on the mission trip. So the mission trip is an incredible event. It's an event of growing and stretching in your faith and your walk with the Lord. Growing and stretching literally because we'll be doing a lot of physical activities, but it's to help deepen your spiritual life. It's to help be the hands and feet of Jesus. And so this mission trip, we're going to be going to Copper Hill, Tennessee, which is just a couple hours away. We won't even be leaving the state. We'll be pretty close.
Well, we will be crossing the border.
Yeah,
a couple
but then coming
days.
back.
Yeah.
So, but this is a trip that's kind of a local trip, but we will be doing some service projects. We'll be helping to build homes or do repair work in homes. We're going to be going to a very heavily impoverished community to help out there. We're going with a group. It's called Youth Works. And
Team effort.
Team Effort, yeah. And Team Effort, they do mission trips like this every year all across the country for weeks and weeks on end. And so we're just going to be partnering with them to go down there. They're going to be doing a lot of the legwork, and we just get to show up and they tell us what we're going to be doing and all that. So, but in here is information on that, where we'll be staying, what activities we'll be doing, all that's in here. So if you have any questions, you can kind of look in here. But the cost is going to be $359 per person. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but I want to remind everyone that 1, we serve a very big God who meets needs. 2, we are part of a very generous church. This church is a church of givers. We see that right now with the church band. I'm blown away that we've raised as much as we have. But so starting in the next couple of weeks as we get closer, we'll be doing fundraisers to help support this. And the important thing about fundraisers is if your student shows up and they help with the fundraiser, they will be getting whatever, they'll be getting a split of whatever, a cut of whatever is raised. So that's the biggest way.
But the
Yeah,
the flip side is if they don't show
Yeah.
up to fundraise,
Yeah.
they don't get a portion of that.
Yeah.
So they've got to pull their weight before we go.
And then the other thing we'll be doing is on Wednesday nights, we'll be helping them to write donation letters. They can send those letters to family, friends, people in this church, anyone they want. And that's one of the best ways to raise money for this. So, you know, when I was growing up, we had family we'd send letters to and they would help. If that's something you don't have any family that you can think of, let us know. We'll help do that with you. We'll help you find somebody. We'll do whatever. But I can tell you between those two, I think we'll be all right on getting these kids. But if your kid wants to go and they help and they send out letters and they help with the fundraisers, they will go on this trip. You know, we will make sure they go on this trip. But, you know, any questions about that part? I know that sounds like a big chunk of change. But, so they're gonna have to participate in all those activities to earn it. The next thing that's a big requirement is we're asking for anyone going on this trip to be an up-and-coming 8th grader at least. So if you're in 7th grade right now, you're eligible to go on this trip, but the ones who are moving up just this summer will not be eligible to go. Just because it's a big trip, we're going very far away, and it's gonna be hard to bring students who haven't been a part of our group or are not right there, you know, with our group. So we're asking it for 8th grade and up. So students that we've had in youth for at least a year. But the other thing is we want to make sure we're taking children and students who understand what this is. You know, we're not taking them to Dollywood. We're not taking them to Disney World. We're taking them on a mission trip. And they will be working. We will be working. But there will be time set aside for worship. There'll be time set aside for debriefing and discussing things. So it's going to be a kind of a spiritually mature trip. If you feel like your student is not spiritually mature enough, mentally mature enough, I'm asking that you and I have a conversation about that. You know, if you just feel like this isn't the year for them, that's fine. There's going to be other trips further down the road. So if I feel like maybe we might have an issue, I might come to you guys and say, hey, let's talk about this, okay? Because I want them to get as much out of this as they possibly can. So just, that's kind of it on this. Does anybody have any questions on the mission trip? And pretty soon, once we get through the arc, you'll be hearing all about the mission trip for the next few months. Okay, so no questions about the mission trip. And we'll have another meeting, I'm sure, beforehand where we go over the specifics of that. So now the main event, the ARC. So the ARC we're leaving this Monday.
Friday.
Friday. Sorry.
They're gonna go for a whole week.
Yeah, we're sending them for a whole
Amen.
We're leaving this Friday, which happens to be my birthday. And we'll be gone Friday through Sunday.
God bless you.
I know, I'm really crazy. So we're gonna be going, the ARC is in Kentucky. What city is the ARC in?
I don't.
Lancaster.
Yeah, it's on the paper.
Yeah, so we're not gonna be staying in the actual city where the ARC is, because you know, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we're gonna be staying in Lancaster, Kentucky, and it's like an Airbnb, it's a big house, it's a couple stories, and so we'll be staying in this house. It's got a good sized kitchen, it's on a big property, there's no neighbors, there's no one around to we can be as loud as we have to be. Tyann's really loving that idea. But if they get crazy, we can just send them outside and that'll do their thing. There's acres and acres to roam on. So on this trip, there are a few stories. So the girls will be on a separate floor from the boys. There will be workers staying with the girls and with the boys. No nonsense is going to be happening on this trip, okay? So we'll be keeping a good eye on them. But this is going to be, I'm excited about it. I've never been to the ARC. I think this is most of our first time going to the ARC. I think it's going to be just a really exciting trip. I think we're going to learn a lot. But, you know, I think this is going to be good, but this is going to be a good prep for when we go on the mission trip. So, we'll be meeting here at the church. We'll be leaving at 3:30 on Friday. So meet here sometime between 3 and then. I'm asking that students just bring one bag, not a gigantic bag, but just one bag if you can. Cause we have a lot of students going on this trip and we need to have the space to carry all their stuff. So just one bag, we'll be leaving on a Friday and coming back on a Sunday, so really just a couple outfits is all they need, several changes of underwear, just those things, toiletries, but they don't need to bring, you know, a whole lot of luggage. Deodorant, yes, please bring deodorant. Just the essentials. Chandra, Daniel, Jill, and Tyann will be driving, and we'll have them all split up into the different vehicles. We will be riding up there together. I'm asking that they bring money for one meal. We'll have one meal, probably a McDonald's or Chick-fil-A on the way, and then we'll be providing the meals the rest of the time, so you don't have to worry about that. We'll be doing kind of budget-friendly meals, tacos, spaghetti, hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff like that, and breakfast food. So if you're unsure about the food, if your child has dietary restrictions, if you've got an issue with that, you can send food with them, or let us know and we can try and figure something out.
We'll have a cooler so they can send
Yeah, we'll have
something
a
if they
cooler,
need
so
to.
if they need to bring, you know, something for breakfast, something for dinner, whatever. But just send that with them. If they have medication, make sure you put it in a little Ziploc bag with their name on it and what the medication is and the directions. If they need to take it with meals or at bedtime, let us know so we can send that and have that ready for them. And then the last thing is they'll need to bring money for souvenirs. If they want to get some, they don't need to bring it, but if they'd like to get something from the gift shop or they'd like to, you know, do whatever, you can send some money with them. I'm asking that you don't send $1,000 with your child. Because I don't want to be responsible for $1,000 times all these kids. But if you just want to send $20, $40, $60 with them, that'd be fine. The other thing is, don't send them with anything that you would be upset if it didn't come home with them. Headphones, I know their cell phones are different, but headphones, whatever. Can y'all think of anything else? Don't send them with anything that's gonna get messed up. Okay, 'cause
Expensive jewelry.
anything expensive jewelry, okay, I trust these kids, but things happen, okay?
Lamar, they have to give the medicine to an adult because it can't be in the students' rooms.
Yes.
So if they
We'll
take
follow
regular
that.
medicine, it has to be given to us on Friday.
And like I said, put the instructions in there, that way we'll know. We'll be coming back on Sunday, we'll get here probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll keep you up to date when we leave, when we're getting close, that way you'll have time to be here to pick them up. I think that's it. So does anyone have questions on this trip? Yes.
Do they need bedding or pillows or anything to go? And are,
Unless
Unless they just love a pillow, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's all
a
provided.
Pillow, a pillow would be fine, but other than that, there's plenty of beds, there's plenty of linens and stuff like
And-
that.
do we need to send money for them to eat on the way back?
No.
Okay,
It's just that one meal. Yeah.
Yeah, we're.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would it be wise that if they take Tylenol